Welcome everybody back to the usual. To start us off, we just got two videos right now. Basically, we got David Packman on Joe Rogan from the Young Turks and Fortnite viewership. Two separate videos. Let's go.
Joining me now is David Packman, host of the David Packman Show and also a longtime friend of TYT Network. David, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So I have so much that I want to talk to you about. Unfortunately, we have such limited time, but I want to jump right in and talk a little bit about your interview on the Rogan podcast. I thought you did an excellent job, and there were certain parts of that podcast that really stood out to me. I want to play one portion of it and get your reaction. Let's take a look.
In this world, because it mocks people's positions.
So David, the reason why I played that,
I want to start off by saying you didn't actually, he even went on to point out he's going to give more context, and she didn't let it happen. Now, I'm obviously biased against the Turks. That I've only done a few videos on them, but there's a reason why I haven't really watched them before, and there's a reason why my other videos are more critical. But you didn't even play the full clip to let him give the context that he was in the process of giving. It's not like he paused. You just cut it right there.
that portion of the podcast is because I used to listen to or watch the Rogan podcast regularly. I thought it was fascinating, even though it seemed as though the majority of his guests were right-wing. Members of the so-called intellectual dark web have made countless appearances on his show. And
only more recently they have, but back for a long time, I mean, most of the time his podcast was just mostly comedians, rock stars, musicians, movie people. He's had controversial people on, but he had them on usually, for starters, before they were controversial, oftentimes, and then sometimes it's the podcast that they were on that made them controversial occasionally.
it seems like he's always willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. But when the dunking happens by the left, he's quick to call it out and say, oh, maybe this is problematic. Maybe this isn't such a great thing to do. I mean, am I wrong? Is that the way that you kind of also see this?
The way I see it is just any opportunity that I have to convince someone or their audience of my view in the sort of as an alternative to anything else that they've gotten up until that point. I see it as a good opportunity. So I think there's no question that if you look at the guest balance, there's no doubt that there have been prominent right-wingers who appear there, and they are pretty persuasive in sort of their own way, and Joe Rogan seems influenced by them. But in that same way, he seemed to be giving me that same benefit of the doubt. I mean, there's no question that that question was framed in a particular way. But then when I explained to him, I think there's a difference between you are attacking someone for who they are versus you're attacking someone for the bad ideas that they say. He did seem to get that, and from the feedback I got, his audience did also seem to get that.
Yeah, one of the reasons why.
And one of the emphasis, everybody, not to write this off, but everybody does get that, because that's kind of what we're saying. The whole thing with Crowder, as David Packman even said on the show, he did not know Crowder's show was a comedy routine. Now, whether or not anybody believes that is up for debate. I'll take his word for it. But if all you know is the clips of Crowder rather than his whole show with the skits and all this stuff, it's possible that you don't know that it's a comedy routine. However, nonetheless, let's see. Well, I mean, I think that's kind of the emphasis, the point of it. He does agree with you. We all agree with you. But what we don't agree on is that Crowder is not an exception to the rule, that he's an example of the position.
And you've gone to extreme lengths to avoid, ad hominem attacks and, any of the kind of dunking that's really characteristic of what you see on YouTube these days.
Yeah,
I think that's a fair statement, but I also think that most of the time the problem is that the left tends to emphasize the dunking as more important, and B, that was kind of I agree that there's probably a reason why you dunk on kids, why you should have talked to Shapiro about that. However, Shapiro's defense would probably be that most of those videos are when he's at a college, and well, they are the statements he gets in response, like on Change My Mind with Crowder, they're worth being dunked. And I'm sorry, the music's still playing. Like, they're dunkable statements, so it kind of makes sense as far as I'm concerned.
It's just that he probably didn't feel good about it because he didn't do a good job answering some of those questions. But he cut you off, and then
I'd have to see this interview and kind of get more context. I haven't heard about this situation, so that's kind of all I can really offer on it right now.
I just felt that it was important for people to understand who Ruben really is, because while he might present himself as a good faith actor, in reality, he has not only platformed, but has failed to challenge some of the most dangerous ideology imaginable in American politics today.
And there's no question about it.
I'd have to, yeah, see, the problem here is that I haven't seen the context, but I also have not, I actually have watched Ruben, and I haven't seen any evidence either, so difficult position to put to be in there.
The fact of the matter is, the right wing is extremely good at unifying and pushing forward with a unified message. And so,
duh. Right? I mean, those two things are back-to-back incorrect. So for starters, yes, unified message and a unified front, because it is a very clear front. And that's the whole argument, is that there's no clear front. It's just a ton of wishy-washiness on the other side. Strange how you can make something that is exactly the point sound like it's supposed to be in your favor.
And being positive about what she wants to do, as opposed to constantly being reactive to what she doesn't want to do that someone else said. I mean, obviously you're running against.
Yeah, but you haven't seen her say anything that she's going to do, or also how she's going to do it. It's one of the other things about the situation that's kind of important for when you're discussing any particular presidential candidate. Yang gang.
Donald Trump and
David Packman, host of the David Packman Show, thank you so much for joining us on No Filter.
anytime.
So yeah, what my takeaway from this is that David is a very solid, and as a matter of fact, from here I'm definitely going to be following David's show. I think he's going to be a good source of progressive and liberal and left-leaning news as compared to the Young Turks, which I think even he doesn't want to say, but from this interview made it sound very much more like he's not siding with the issues, he's giving a measured response to the questioning, which felt leading to me. So, good job, David. Young Turks, my position has not changed on your show, but we'll be checking out David Packman here later today. Actually, let's just see if I can. Where is David Packman's show? Huh, Anna? Where is it? Oh well, I don't see it. So, moving on. Thanks for watching.